Darren, have you heard the news about the Queen? Very sad news.
It is very sad news, and we, like many other millions of people around the globe, need to wrestle with this and deal with this right here on the Right Next Door podcast. Interestingly, the Queen has not been a guest on the podcast, and
Well,
now
we
she
were
never will be,
trying, but
Jeff.
obviously, ill health and booking problems. So
We put some feelers out there. We have a number of nonagenarians, people in their 90s that were trying to get on our show, and she was the top of our list, and yet it didn't happen to work out. But I mean, seriously, it's a sad day for the world. I mean, she was an amazing human being.
yeah, it's really an end of an era, really, because I mean, Charles is, Charles. I'm not, I don't want to get into that whole thing because I don't really follow the royals, but there was something about the Queen who's been around our entire lifetime.
Yeah, yeah,
And she just
yeah.
seemed like a very classy lady. There was,
Yeah.
no scandal around her. I mean, it just seemed like she was like the epitome of what, if you had a queen, she was the epitome of what a queen should be like.
She was, and we're going to go from QE2 to Chuck 3, and I think it's going to be an awkward transition.
It's gonna. I think it's already. I saw some of the footage this morning. I'll tell you something funny because. Do you have favorite words that the Brits pronounce differently than we do here stateside?
They show up from time to time in my speech.
So I'm watching the coverage this morning with my coffee, and I noticed that the Brits love the word. Well, we would pronounce it extraordinary or extraordinary, but the Brits say, and I've been working on this. Here's my accent: extraordinary. Extraordinary. Everything was extraordinary. So I was like,
the aluminium was extraordinary.
My bubble and squeak is extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
But that word, like they interviewed, I want to say 10 different people. Every single one used that word with that pronunciation, which I thought was great.
If they didn't use that word, they used brilliant.
Oh yeah, brilliant is another one. I've actually adopted brilliant and triumph in my regular vocabulary. But I do have I have a little list here of words. Do you have any favorite British words? Because I have a few.
I used to go out with a British woman, and so I picked up a lot of Britishisms. That was years ago though, so many of them have gone out of my head. But go ahead.
I've actually adopted a few of these myself. Sure. in daily speech. So we would say controversy.
Controversy.
Contrivacy. So the Brits say contrivacy, which I think is great. So I started using that. You've already mentioned aluminium. Schedule, another one that's
schedule
is very fun. Yeah. And then I had a bunch. Oh, if you ever watch the cooking shows and the guys are from the UK, basil over basil.
My mother used to date a man named Basil.
And then
of course there was a show called Faulty Towers, and his wife always used to say Basil. And then of course we have oregano. They have oregano. No, they don't.
Honest to Pete, they say oregano. I was watching a cooking show, and the guy said oregano. I'm like, what is that?
Where do you pick that up?
Do we have oregano here? What is he using? Wait, hold on. I got to pull up. I have so many screens open. Hang on. What was some of the other ones that? We say pita. They say pita.
See, I know so many Britishisms. I happen to know a lot of Yiddish as well. That's a whole other thing. And I did not know about oregano. I didn't know about some of these.
That's one of my newer ones. That one I really got a kick out of. So now I say basil and oregano.
We're divided by the same language, we and the Brits. We have to make our way. We have to make our way now without the Queen, and it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Can you imagine if you lived next to Windsor Castle? I mean, have you ever been to Windsor Castle?
I've driven by when I was over there across the pond.
We did. We've both been fortunate enough to have gone to the UK a couple of times, and we did a tour a couple of years ago. I mean, obviously a couple of years pre-COVID, and we did a tour of Windsor Castle. Not we would say castle, they say castle. But the tour guide, I was mortified because we had a really, fun tour guide.
Yeah.
And we got to talking because, it's right in the path of Heathrow. So there's jumbo jets continually flying over. And our tour guide said, yeah, she goes, we had a group of Americans through here not too long ago. And one of them asked me, why would they build such an expensive castle in the flight path of Heathrow? I'm like, oh my God. Americans representing poorly in the UK. I laughed so hard when I heard that. I was like, oh my Lord. So, but I will say, the grounds are kept very nicely. So even though there's probably a lot of commotion, if you live right around the retaining wall, they seem to keep everything up to snuff.
Well, and if I were going to build this building again, where I'm staying right now, I would make sure the moat was deeper than it currently is. You want to make sure if you're going to have invaders from, Mongol invaders or different invaders from foreign lands, you want to be able to have a pit you can fill with flaming liquid or some other way to keep miscreants away, and door-to-door salesmen.
And who doesn't want a drawbridge? No more door-to-door salesmen. Keeps the potential robbers at bay. But I would love to have a moat, but I don't think I can get a permit for one.
Now, Jeff, your home is your castle, right? So it's very important when searching for a new home. You've got to look at all these different aspects and get what you need when you're looking for that new place.
My daughter's looking for a place.
Oh.
And so we've the market is kind of completely nuts. So it's still way overheated.
Jeff, hold that thought. Folks, you're at the Right Next Door podcast. If you haven't done it already, if you're listening to us for the second time, or maybe even the first time, make sure you like and review and tell your friends. Tell just one person about the Right Next Door podcast. Word of mouth is always a huge, huge help. And we're going to get back to the show right now, but I just always want to make sure people know to like and review. So your daughter is looking for a new home, and they're going to buy?
Well, yeah, the hope is that we can find her something that's affordable because, you're probably in a rent-controlled apartment because you've been there so long, but like the rents for what you get are just through the roof.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at some properties to help her out. And what I've discovered is we have a new side hustle that we should pursue because
you and me,
we can both do it, as a writing team. I mean, I've written professionally. I still write professionally. You, I'm sure have gotten scripts that you looked at and were like, oh my God, but I'll read it because I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
But there is a total side hustle, I think, that I've discovered in writing for real estate.
You're talking about writing for real estate. Are we writing for funny? Or are we writing regular real estate?
Well,
you and I could do the funny.
That's the rub. We can write regularly and it will still come off as funny. We'll go over some of those posts on today's show.
Dirty deeds, triggered tirades, busybodies, and missing cats. They say tall fences make good neighbors, but bad neighbors make the Right Next Door podcast.
Jeff, your home is your castle. My home is my castle. I don't have the flaming moat to keep out miscreants and interlopers just yet. It's something I'm looking into because you never know. Do you use some kind of gasoline-like fuel? Do you have a gas jets? Do you use natural gas jets for your flaming ring around your hovel or your home? I'm figuring out all the technical details, and yet staying away from the outside world is something that we might all need to do soon.
Well, you're probably going to want to stay away from most of the houses that I have seen recently. Which,
and you're talking about in person. You've seen these houses.
Yeah. So, I mean, I spent nearly a decade in advertising, and I can tell you, if you don't think advertising works, it works. And there are some houses that I've seen pictures of.
Yeah.
And you're like, one that was the most egregious was a nice, very good curb appeal, needed a little, maybe updating on the paint and stuff, corner lot. I knew I was in trouble on this one property because we walked up and the real estate agent was standing at the front door greeting people with the front door open. So he was kind of half in, half out of the house.
To beckon you or to make sure that you came in?
Well, as it turns out, there was an odor in this house, which was unbelievable. Like I walked in and immediately to the left, there was like this gate for, to contain pets. And so the real estate agent goes, well, the owner obviously had pets. That's why the gate's here. And I'm like, no kidding. I can smell them. It was.
Wow.
And so we go through the whole house.
So the realtor was half outside just to get away from the smell.
To get away from the smell. And so I walk through the house. There's a fireplace. And I go back and I say, hey, is the fireplace functioning? And he says, well, I don't know, but there's a half-burnt log in there. And I'm like, yeah, from Christmas of '82, there wasn't a thing in the house. Literally every stick of furniture, every cabinet was like circa 1969. Nothing had been updated. And
you don't want to move into a time capsule, Jeff.
No, but it was, if you looked at the pictures were like, okay, this is, it's a little dated, but, a little paint and that, no problem.
Yeah.
When I tell you this place was uninhabitable, like my son literally said to me, you couldn't pay me enough to spend one night in that house. I'm like, agreed.
Wow,
I opened up the fuse box. It was literally 30 years of cobwebs and spider eggs.
God.
And now here's what I found absolutely hysterical, because there was some sort of weird, what I assumed was being used as a chicken coop, which we've talked about before, which was, not done to code.
No, pets inside the house and also chickens outside.
Yeah, there was some weird, what should have been a shed. It was somehow attached to the kitchen, and there was no door. Like you just walked right into it.
So a mother-in-law unit for a mother-in-law you really, really hate.
Oh, you could just leave her. If you don't like your mother-in-law, you could leave her in any room in this house, and it would. it really didn't matter what room.
So one of those marriages where, hey, honey, your mother hasn't been to visit for a long time. Don't you think? Sure, I'd love to have your mother visit.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. So just for giggles, I went back to check to see, because the asking price was just absurd. I mean, it wasn't when you saw the original pictures and you're like, okay, not bad. But then when you actually see it, I mean, it would have caught you. Literally have to rip the place to the studs and redo everything.
Oh,
and
or burn it to the ground, or
or just tear it down and and build another one. But
move in with a bulldozer.
Here's what just cracked me up is that the kitchen was just a literally 1968 to 70 kitchen with Formica tops. I go back just to see where they're at on the asking price. They had put in granite countertops. So the realtor was like, you're going to need granite countertops for us to be able to get. And I'm like, okay.
You mean nothing else updated, but just you take your 60s kitchen and just throw granite on top of it.
Yeah, it would be like putting a saddle on a dead horse. I mean, you would have been like, what? Why would you? I mean, it was just, my brain exploded.
It's a stainless steel refrigerator.
So
it's granite countertops.
Oh no, it wasn't. And it's funny because the appliances look like maybe they replaced the dishwasher. I can't tell. I got it up, but so here's where our side hustle comes in. Because if you read some of these, large expanded colonial in wonderful area, corner home, circle drive, all that's great.
Yeah.
Here's where you take caution. Needs some updating. And I'm like everything in the house, gorgeous, large backyard. Oh, updated kitchen features granite counters.
Stainless steel appliances.
Yeah, forget about the floor. Forget about all the cabinetry, the plumbing that likely doesn't work. I'm like,
breakfast bar and eat-in area. If you can stand the smell, you can actually eat inside this home. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I was totally bamboozled, and I told the guy on the way out, I'm like, whoever did your pictures, you should pay him double, because he did a great job making this place look like it was a viable place, and it really wasn't. But what kind of struck my attention was that if you start reading enough of these real estate, overviews, whoever the copywriters are, and I'm assuming they're not even copywriters. I'm guessing just the real estate agent writes this stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of it is pretty comical. Like there's certain words that we're going to have to use.
Well, one of the words that occurs again and again in these problematic homes is charming. If something is charming,
Another red flag, sun drenched. That's a word that's used. Lovely sun drenched home. I'm like, oh boy, that's a red flag.
great potential with some TLC.
Right.
An excellent opportunity to gain sweat equity! Exclamation point.
Sweat equity. Another favorite is gorgeous gleaming hardwood floors, which to me says gym floor, right? I mean, you don't want a gleaming hardwood floor. That's a gymnasium. But
do they mention the paneling? You know, when you have that 70s paneling in the in large areas of the home, I don't know if they ever say paneling anywhere. Do they probably don't use the word paneling.
They don't. And there's so many of these contractors that are just buying up. What I've kind of discovered is that there's a lot of homes that are hitting the market now that literally have had, people from the greatest generation who have been in there forever.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of them didn't have the means to do updating, right? If you're on a fixed income in that,
Jeff, speaking of that, Queen Elizabeth just died. I expect the place she's lived has not been updated for many, many years. So I'm sure you walk into that place, it's like a museum. Am I right? I mean, you're that age. What do you don't put a lot of effort into your space.
Wait a minute.
Probably
Are you
has
telling
a lot
me
of the same paint.
Charles and Camilla are going to have to redo all of Buckingham Palace?
It's going to be a teardown. It's going to be a teardown. It's going to be a gut rehab because she's lived in there. She's not updated. She probably has a television from the 50s. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of work needed, both at Windsor and Balmoral and Buckingham Palace. I'm sure it looks like a freaking museum as well. So Jeff, don't get me started with moving in when an elderly person finally dies after 70 years on the throne. You're going to need a lot of updating.
You're going to need some. Yeah, I never thought of that. Buckingham Palace probably is not in move-in condition. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the guards people, their tall hats have gotten shorter over the years, and so there's a lot of work to be done. Somebody dies, and it's a real estate nightmare.
It's a nightmare, and it's not just indicative to our area. So I bounced around
clearly
all over the country at different listings, and I found one. I found one down in Florida.
Yeah.
You're in trouble by just how many days it's been on the market. So there's automatically a problem if it's, the day thing. But this one starts out, no HOA. It's a house in a neighborhood. And the first thing they say is no HOA. And then
that stands for
homeowners association. So if you're in a condo or in a townhouse or in a gated community, you have to pay a monthly fee for, you don't have to mow the lawn and that kind of stuff. So you pay HOA. They start out with HOA. It's not even in a community that would have an HOA, which I thought was pretty funny. And then it goes on to say potential Airbnb cash cow. So already I'm like, well, how come I wouldn't just want to live in this house?
No. You don't want to live there. You want college kids on vacation to it's already so trashed that you can have Airbnb kids in there and not worry about it.
Yeah, and it's funny because once again the pictures look fine. There doesn't seem to be any issues other than you want to buy this house and not move into it because you want to use it as an Airbnb. So,
oh man,
I was like, holy smokes! And then wait, hang on, I got a couple others here which are just.
And if there's no way, the other homeowners in the area, they don't want to know about your Airbnb also. So that's another reason you're not part of the homeowners association.
Yeah, well, maybe you couldn't do that in a homeowners. I don't know. There was another one that came up, which literally I nicknamed it the Brady Bunch house. I think I sent you the link to that one. Go to the. I mean, it's a ranch with that gigantic circular driveway. It appears to be the original owners from 1964 or 5, whatever it was.
Golly.
And the basement, and it's really funny because I said to Laura, I'm like, we should just keep this exactly as it is and rent it as an Airbnb time capsule. Because the basement, take a look at the basement. It looks like you're going into like an old local restaurant or pub that's been around since since the 60s or 50s.
With the weird paneling. Paneling, we just don't panel anymore for many decades. For many decades now, we've not paneled. This is really, and when you see real estate pictures, someone's made a choice for these things to be in the pictures. So this weird round table with this kind of plastic tablecloth, and the paneling, not only is there paneling, but there's paneling up above, and there's brick below with these weird panel insets on the brick, and then the bullfighting paintings from. Oh my God!
I would swap that out with a Velvet Elvis. I mean,
and the picture I can see back in the corner, the pictures on the wall downstairs. Sad clowns.
Sad clowns. I know that's
sad clown pictures.
I would lose the sad clowns out, Farrah Fawcett poster in.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a Knight Rider poster with that with the kit car and David Hasselhoff. Give it the full experience.
And see these things, and it's not ironic at all. Like you happen to have, I know this about you, Jeff. You happen to have the most magnificent vintage man cave in your place, and it's this perfect time capsule, fantastic place from the 40s, 50s, a place to have cocktails and play pool with your pals, and that's purposeful. This is not. No one chose. They just if you just leave something, and weirdly the stains on the carpet. It kind of looks like there's been multiple bloody deaths on this carpet, and they've been dragged away to the side. The way the marks are in this carpet in this paneled basement.
Well, either that or they had, because there is a kitchenette down there. They may have entertained a lot, and remember, it was the 70s, so Manwich sloppy joes were very big.
Very good point.
That could be a lot of Manwich sauce all over the carpet that just never got.
You say that about the Manwich. The picture of the kitchen, of course, there's a crock pot on the counter.
And look at that 70s coffee pot. It's like that weird shade of red.
Harvest Gold.
Yeah, I would go after that place, but they'd have to leave all the furniture. It would have to remain as is.
If you look at the picture, the refrigerator looks like the refrigerator in the kitchen has like the one big door you used to have in a refrigerator in the 60s.
Right.
But fortunately for people that walk in there, they've left it open a crack, so whatever died inside it is allowed to breathe a little bit and dry out. So
the cracked refrigerator door says to me, they're anticipating somebody will continue to use it.
Oh,
which is even more. So, all right. So that was a good one. I found another one. This is a townhouse, McMansion in quotes esque, right? So cookie cutter townhouse.
Yeah.
This professionally decorated home is in pristine condition and has a Frank Lloyd Wright vibe. Now, either this person has no idea who Frank Lloyd Wright is, or they're just flat out lying. I mean,
Jeff, Frank Lloyd Wright was designing homes in the 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah, and they all have a very distinct prairie style, This house is literally one of those cookie cutters that if you had to go to a party, you would get lost because every single one looks the same. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, there is nothing Frank Lloyd Wright-esque about the entire development.
Well, if you're a real estate person, you're a young real estate person, you know the name of one famous architect in the world. And so you're going to so which famous architect should I mention here that other people will know of? Okay, how about Frank Lloyd Wright? That's the guy that people know about.
Right.
The Frank Lloyd Wright vibe. The oh my Lord, prairie style.
And then there's just so many dogs out there that the real estate agent is trying to. This is where I think we can make some money, because I think we can outright a lot of these and make them even more attractive. I'm looking at one, which is a complete dog.
Yeah.
It starts out with wow in caps, 3 exclamation points. And when you look at it, your first reaction is, yeah, wow, but not in a good way. And then it says so much space to enjoy, brand new roof and gutters, which is the only thing new in the place.
Oh dear.
and then they go on to the big lot and the walk-in cedar closet and stuff. But the rest of the house is it's just, I mean, I suppose you could, repaint it and stuff, but the asking price is so ridiculous that.
Well, we need to rewrite things, and Jeff, they need to hire us. Comedy doesn't work if you only go at it a little ways. So if we see something funny and the property is unsellable anyway, why not go all the way and make it crazy funny? And I think we could do that.
I think we could definitely do that. And we can just kind of educate ourselves by going through these listings. And
wow, so much space. Bring your roller skating party to this home. Your kids and their friends will enjoy roller skating around and around and around while all the other parents clap their hands with glee.
One of them
move in condition.
One of them said, "This is the one you've been waiting for." It didn't even have a driveway. Like, it had a gravel driveway, and they had ripped out the front sidewalk. I'm like, how are you supposed to get into the house? There's not even a sidewalk going into the front door. I mean, it's just so.
This is the one you've been waiting for, because your life will end here soon.
Wow,
like, just looks scary. Wow.
So I think if
you'll say wow.
What have we learned today? Gleaming. That's a word we're going to use. What were some of the other ones?
There's no controversy about a home.
Controversy
about a home that these homes are all brilliant, and they're in move-in condition. Even though a 90-year-old sovereign lived there for the last 70 years, you could move right in.
Look, as long as they're sun-drenched and have gleaming hardwood floors, I think we're in good shape. And the other thing too is, I mean, we're old enough to remember the 1980s in Miami Vice.
Oh, yes.
Everything now has a white kitchen. I'm so sick of looking at a white kitchen with gray paint. Now, given our climate, half the year is white and gray. Would you want that in your house for the entire year? I do not.
Not if you're in the Chicago area, not necessarily. And yet, on the other hand, if you're in a more temperate area, do you want it to look like palm trees and palm leaves all year long, or not?
Yeah, I mean, everything has to be a white kitchen, and the last time the white kitchen was in vogue was the 1980s. So this is probably already on the cusp of being out of vogue, but everybody's still going with the white kitchen. So and some houses just look ridiculous with white kitchens.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you see some real estate listings that you find amusing, let us know about them. Send them to us at rightnextdoorpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to talk about them on our show.
And I'm probably late to the party on this, obviously, but that link I sent you for the Zillow Gone Wild on Reddit, if you're in a bad mood, that will get you in a humorous mood pretty quickly, because some of the listings on that are so. My favorite was I don't know if you saw it. It was another 70s time capsule with two mustard yellow full-size tubs side by side, encased with shag carpeting.
Brown shag carpeting. I saw that picture. The ugliest bathroom in human history. You could go to caveman times where you're bathing in a muddy stream, not as ugly as this bathroom from the 70s.
Oh,
terrible, terrible.
The guy's response was something along the lines of, he goes, "In the room where you poop and peep, exactly how I want to decorate with poop and peep colors."
We're going to have to include the picture of that in our show notes. Yeah.
I mean, I got a good chuckle out of that one, but you could go down a rabbit hole on that. There's a lot of great material there. And I'm going to put out some feelers at the big real estate powerhouse to see if I can't get us a gig.
I'm going to see if I can find a lead on that Windsor Castle place. It seems like the lady who lived there just died. Might be at a good sale price.
Hey, I wonder if they're having an estate sale.
Ooh, wow.
You have a neighbor who's driving you crazy. Tell us about it. rightnextdoorpodcast@gmail.com. The Right Next Door Podcast is an unscripted production of Eversharp Media, which takes a satirical look at local news coverage and social media. The material, views, and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the talent, guests, or the production company. Celebrity voices impersonated, including this one.